Hello, everybody. Akash Inti here, your favorite biotech research analyst, talking to you a little bit today about licensing. Why is licensing important in the biotech pharmaceutical industry? What is licensing? And how does a company go about the licensing process? So, with that, why is licensing important? Licensing is important in the industry because it's the way that larger pharmaceutical companies will fill their pipelines, their research and development pipelines. Um, Quick little backstory before we get back into the licensing discussion. Biotech pharmaceutical companies have had a lot of trouble over the past few years with regards to developing new drugs. A lot of the times, the investments that they make in their own pipeline and their own portfolio of drugs, these drugs end up failing, and the companies themselves have to start finding other ways of innovating because this industry is built on innovation. Companies need to continue to innovate in order to bring something to the market and be able to command such high prices. That being said, licensing is their way of doing this. So they've been finding a lot of external partnerships, or they've been conducting a lot of external research and development activities through partnerships with biotech companies, which tend to be a lot smaller. And we've talked a little bit about this in one of the past videos. Licensing itself is important because it allows big pharma to fill its pipelines with a fresh infusion of novel candidates or novel drugs that will provide revenue into the future. Now, what is licensing itself? Licensing is a deal. It's a deal structure in which the biotech company, the licensor, gives the pharma company, the licensee. I'm just making sure I don't get these two terms mixed up. That whole thing gives the licensor, the biotech company, gives the licensee, the pharma company typically, the rights to sell a drug for a particular indication. Now, this is licensing activity at a very, very high level. There's so many different types of deal structures, even within licensing, that a company or a deal maker can do. But at a very high level, this is kind of the exchange. So, biotech company. Let's say I'm a biotech company. Let's say you're a pharmaceutical company. I tell you that for XYZ price, let's just make it easy, for $100 million, I will allow you to license my drug. So what I give you is the rights to my drug in a particular indication, geography, and there could be other types of avenues in which one goes down. It could be things of nature of I'm literally rambling right now, but these are really the big ones I'd say. Honest, in the big picture is really geography and indication. Be aware that there are other types of deal structures that may be available. There's other avenues in which one can carve out. The last one could be like a technology platform itself, or some such thing. So that's what I would give you. You would give me $100 million. Sounds great, right? That's kind of at a high level what goes on. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of other deal terms that are appended to this. Oftentimes, royalties are appended. When I say appended, I mean like added on to the whole deal. Royalties means that if you pharma company ends up selling maybe $1 billion worth of this drug, I would get like 1% of it. You'll return back to me based on the sales of it. So there's like I mentioned, there's so many different deal structures within it, but I wanted to talk at a very high level of like what is licensing and why is it important. Then how does one go about a licensing deal? Last piece of this video. Companies will oftentimes, after they've released some data or as they're approaching a place of we may see positive phase 2 trials results. Knowing that the data readout will be at a certain date, they'll start going around and they'll start talking to they'll usually, assuming it's a biotech company, like myself, in this scenario, they'll start talking to pharmaceutical companies and they'll be like, hey, we have this new drug, and this new drug, it's in this indication, this is the data that we're reading out, this is what the clinical trial looks like, so on and so forth. Oftentimes, the pharmaceutical companies also always looking around, especially if they need to be filling and refreshing their pipelines with new innovation. And so, what they'll end up doing is they'll have some initial discussions, and before you know it, these discussions can ramp up and pick up speed very very quickly. Where it comes to a point where two companies will enter a licensing deal or propose a licensing agreement together. So, at a high level, this is kind of how it works. We can dive into the details of what is this process of a deal structure. How long does it take to go from day one of initial conversations to the end of a deal? We could talk about some of the certain things of what's important for biotech and pharmaceutical companies to be thinking about in the sense of as they're going about the deal making process. So many different avenues we can go down with this, but I really wanted to just cover at a high level what is a license, what's its importance, why is it important, and how does one go about it. So with that, if you guys have any questions, feel free to write a comment. Let me know in the comments area. Like, subscribe, get your notification bell up in the top right corner. And that's all I got for you today. So I'll see you guys next time. Remember to keep up, thrive, stay sexy.